a service of CNC Worldwide.
The Daily is a service of CNC Worldwide and Jib Jab greetings. I'm Bud Lowell, and your forecast is always on top, your AccuWeather forecast, on your CNC local news page. Some critical days are coming for Eastman Kodak Company, which notified about 1,200 employees on Tuesday that their jobs are being terminated as the company gets out of the consumer inkjet printer business. Desktop and home machines like this one you see here that you can buy for about $70 at Sam's Club. Those are part of the 3,900 jobs Kodak is planning to cut this year. At this rate, the company's commercial printing division in Kettering, Ohio, that makes the type of commercial high-speed printing systems Kodak is staking its future on, that operation could someday end up bigger than Kodak's Rochester operations. As bad as that news is, there may be worse to come. Kodak has to file monthly reports on its operations as part of the Chapter 11 bankruptcy process it began in January. The August report showed the company with 21% less cash on hand than it had in July. Kodak also asked last week for a second delay in filing its reorganization plan and the auction of its digital imaging patents that Kodak hoped would fund its emergence as a smaller and stronger company. That appears to be on indefinite hold. At this point, we want to bring in John Larish, who is one of the people we talked to about Kodak, former Kodak executive and a business writer with a lot of expertise in the imaging field. John, Fitch Rating Service, which is one of the big three credit rating agencies, is predicting that Kodak is likely to default on its debt, and they also downgraded Kodak's bonds to CC, which is 8 steps below an investment-grade bond. And they also issued a statement saying they think, quote, a default of some kind appears probable. Does that sound likely to you, that Kodak, after 131 years, might actually default and end up in liquidation?
Absolutely, Bud, because I have been expecting this for about 3 or 4 years already, though, too. Antonio Perez, who is the current CEO, keeps digging his heels in for what he thinks should be right, and he does not have the dimensions financially, intellectually, or anything else that will lead Kodak beyond that. He stood adamantly about not abandoning the desktop printers, and they were dead almost on arrival. And that's the kind of things that are going to make it almost impossible for that company to come out of it. And the board has taken no action to try and do anything to change that situation.
Well, Kodak has a critical date coming up on October 15th. They're pretty much meeting their month-to-month operating obligations through a loan that they got back at the start of the year, right after the bankruptcy, from Citigroup. And Citigroup has the option to call that in on the 15th of October, and that could tip them over the edge if that happens.
That possibility, but probably stands better than 50-50, because the fact that I'm sure Citigroup sees that amount of cash they've been burning. They see the lack of any other products that they've got coming down the pike, and putting all of their eggs into the basket of making these printers for commercial applications. They've got fierce competition that's not going to really give them the opportunity to really achieve what they thought they were going to achieve.
So Kodak says it is meeting and intends to meet all its obligations. Do you think that they're actually doing everything they could be doing, or that there is even anything that they can do at this point?
I don't think there is anything they can do, but they've been dumping people. And when you don't have people, you don't have the basis for communicating, creating the sales that you need to have, and that's going to be they're bringing themselves into a death spiral.
And ECRA, the Eastman Kodak Retirees Association, has sent an open letter to its members. The organization says analysis shows Kodak owes secured creditors over $1.4 billion, and it estimates that Kodak will owe about $500 million for all the lawyers, financial counselors, and specialists working through its bankruptcy process. Add that up and it appears Kodak will owe more than $2 billion in unsecured debt that has to be paid off before considering anything for unsecured obligations. ECRA says in its open letter to Kodak retirees that their benefits are a big part of those unsecured options. The organization expects little or nothing will be left for their health care coverage once the secured creditors are paid. The traditional pension programs are funded, so they should be unaffected, but extras like the employee health care guarantees, not too likely. ECRA is advising its members to study their alternatives and do it now. In other news, as the State University College at Brockport continues to mourn the death of freshman Alexandra Kogut, the campus is expanding its response by embracing Select Respect Week, a week of domestic violence awareness that was already planned to mark National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Kogut was beaten to death early Saturday in her dorm room, allegedly by her longtime boyfriend, 21-year-old Clayton Whittemore. He's charged with murder. He has a court appearance on Thursday. On Wednesday, male students are volunteering to strap on a pair of high heels and walk across the college mall to demonstrate their pledge not to engage in domestic violence. And social justice leader Shelby Knox will lecture in the Seymour College Union Wednesday evening. On Thursday, the college plans Operation Green and Gold. Students write an individual statement in which they stand up and speak out against domestic violence, many pledging to personally do something to prevent it. That statement and a photo of each individual is then turned into a poster to show their support. The block that once housed the town and village governments in the Wyoming County community of Castile looks like a total loss after Tuesday's early morning fire, and authorities are trying to find a woman who lived in the upstairs apartment where that fire apparently started. The owner of Lorraine's restaurant, which was also in the 1892 corner block, has not been seen since the fire. Wyoming County Sheriff Ferris Hyman says finding her is part of the ongoing investigation his office and the state are making into how the fire started. He had no other comments. The fire broke out about 2 Tuesday morning, and it took 24 fire companies from around the area to get it under control. The Castile Town Court will set up temporary headquarters in the town fire hall October 15th. Village and town offices are arranging for temporary space, and they hope to be at least partially open for business Thursday. It appears the burned building will have to be demolished. The superintendent of the Pittsford Central School District is retiring. Members of the school board did not have to look very far on Tuesday night for her replacement. Mary Alice Price is retiring January 31st, 2013, after more than 10 years on the job. Her replacement will be her current assistant, Michael Perro. He takes over February 1st. Board of Education President Kim McCluskey said the entire community is grateful for the dedication and leadership of Superintendent Price over the past 10 years. Says she has left the district well prepared for the future with a strong fiscal basis and a good collaborative learning culture and strong student performance. Michael Pirro has been with the district for 19 years. He's both a teacher and an administrator. McCluskey said the board considered a regional or national search, but after listing their druthers for a new superintendent, they realized the best candidate was already in-house. And Monroe County's Fair Election Practices Committee has ruled that an ad placed by Congresswoman Louise Slaughter's campaign violated her pledge not to misrepresent her opponent. The ad in question accuses Slaughter's opponent, Monroe County Executive Maggie Brooks, of costing Monroe County taxpayers $423 million through a series of blunders and scandals. The Fair Campaign Practices Committee, which runs under the umbrella of the Monroe County League of Women Voters, says that ad is inaccurate and overstated, and it says that violates the pledge Slaughter signed last month. Republican Brooks said Slaughter is tying her to spending that took place before she became county executive. She said in a statement that the ad is misleading voters by telling them a crucial state audit amounts to a scandal, which it's not, and Brooks says now voters know the truth, she is lying. But the Slaughter campaign won't back down. Her spokesman said when a contract is obtained through a corrupt process, that entire contract should be called a scandal. And Slaughter campaign spokesman Eric Walker says the ad will continue to run. The audit in question is the one we reported on about a month ago. It came from the state comptroller's office. It faulted Monroe County over the process it used to issue bids for its new emergency communications system. Comptroller Thomas DiNapoli's staff said the county gave prior knowledge of its requirements to Navitech, the firm that ultimately got the contract, thus steering the contract to a vendor with significant connections to current and former county officials. To the left of this page, you'll find links to these and other stories. At the bottom of the page, in that gray bar, links for you to use. Post us news items you've written, stories you'd like to be checked out, things that bother you. If you have shout-outs to people you think deserve some applause, if you have birth or wedding announcements, we want to know about all of that. We are your community news source here on your CNC local news pages. Next news as it happens, updates when necessary. And I'm Bud Lowell, CNC News.